my dad, and that's my sister, and my mom's out there. One of the last conversations I had with my dad went like this. He said, "Are you happy?" This was a big question. It was an important question for him to ask me, for both of us. He needed to know, and I needed to tell him. I said, "Yes, yes, I am happy. I am so happy because I know who I am." And this is why the question was so big. Because for far too long, I did not know myself. Not knowing myself, I could not show myself. And that means that my dad couldn't see me. How could he when I couldn't see myself? How could anyone when I couldn't make myself visible? The prefabricated checkbox labeled male obscured nearly all of me. The me that was seen was shallow, quiet, confused, withdrawn, and sad. This was real. Not a facade, but the surface of me hid the depths. Underneath this sad armor, the visceral me raged, and my family did see that much of me. The anger, the loathing, the raging sorrow. Checking my notes, Lee. So then, are you happy? Yes, yes, I know who I am, and I didn't before. I can see myself, and I couldn't for so long. Yes, I am happy. Good. I went on and on about my life, about how much energy I have now. How much I do and want to do, and how it's easy and natural to be now. Where before, there was so much confusion, hesitation, and exhaustion. So yes, yes, I am happy. And my dad said, "Good. You gotta be happy." Summer of 1993. Her name was Carrie, and she was punk rock. She chewed her fingernails, spat on the ground, and sneered at a lot, at just about everything. I had met her at church camp. And crushed on her hard. She didn't care about that. On the ride back home from camp, in the back of the church van, I stared at the frayed, wide hole in my jeans. Worn through BTW, not store-bought. And repeated this one forlorn thought to myself. I wish I was a girl. Repeating it over and over to myself for an hour, letting it come through, letting it be heard. And I was a girl, even then, in very significant ways. I always have been. know how it feels when someone truly sees you? Like, they get you, right? It's nice. I first saw myself clearly and consistently at 43 years of age. Almost 20 years before that, I had fallen hard in love. Not a crush, but love. Love at first sight. Eternal flame love. I will move wherever you go, love. Her name was, and still is, Jennifer. She wore an earthy and fiery sundress when I first saw her. She was wiry, delicate, strong, and full of kindness. I knew this with one look. And she saw me. I think she saw me before I saw myself, more clearly than I saw myself. Even though it would be another 17 or 18 years before I was really able to show myself to the world, she saw me with clairvoyant love. We were both wayfish, raggedy, and lost. She was a little lost in relationships with boys, and struggling with being a young woman in a misogynistic and violently patriarchal culture. And I was hidden away, lost within the projections of patriarchal masculinity onto my body, psyche, and spirit. We held hands and kissed a couple of years later, after watching Napoleon Dynamite on my couch. And that was the first time we'd ever hung out, just the two of us outside of work. And she had moved away, way far away, and come back to visit at Christmas. And 6 months later, I moved way far away too, and we started our life together. I proposed to her while we both sat on a sled in the snow under a pine tree. Nobody got down on a knee. We just sat on the sled like kids, and I offered her a ring, and she said yes. And we were both super happy. Not long after that, we briefly talked about calling off the wedding. We didn't. That would have been heartbreaking and stupid. But the reason we talked about it briefly was because I had never told anyone that I was transgender before. And I told her. And I told myself. For the first time ever, I spoke words that tentatively named who I am. We were lying in bed, and with my back to her, looking at my eyelids or a wall, I said something like, "Sometimes I feel more like a woman than a man." A number of years later, I stood alone in the closet of our house here in Roanoke. I was dressed in a similar way to how I am now. At the time, this was still novel for me, wrapped in layers of complex emotions and the ongoing, and actively being smothered by the ongoing psychological trauma that comes with being a transgender and queer individual in a cisgender heteronormative culture. And something critically changed in that moment. I saw myself, and I was smiling back at me, and I said, with confidence and so much love and a voyeuristically tinged thrill of excitement, I am transgender. In the late summer of 2019, I was beginning to pull out of a debilitating depression. I had been depressed off and on most of my life, and this particular episode was brutal for me and my family. It lasted over 2 years, included a stay in a psychiatric hospital for suicidal ideation, and was accompanied by a steady diet of prescribed pharmacological drugs, including benzodiazepines and 250 milligrams of sertraline or Zoloft a day. Doctors usually don't prescribe more than 200 milligrams of Zoloft a day, because beyond that it becomes potentially unsafe. And I was pulling out of it because I was finally not only accepting that I am trans, but embracing being trans. And I was ready to show up in this fucked up world every day as myself. Jennifer knew I was coming back to her. She could see and feel that. The weight in our house and family had shifted, and we were hugging each other, holding on to each other in our kitchen, a warm and loving, extended embrace. And she said, "I am so glad you're back." And I said, "I am too." And then I said, "I have to transition." And we both sobbed because we didn't know what would happen. On the winter solstice of 2019, I met my people, my tribe. This was not a gathering of trans or queer people. It was simply a gathering of very loving people. Circumstances had conspired over a few months now that I was coming out and transitioning to bring me and my family to this gathering, this event. And this was also the same day that I started hormone replacement therapy. My family didn't know what would happen when I transitioned. We only knew that I had to. What happened was this: me, visible, audible, I have a voice, I have a lot to say. Me, here, now. Since 2019, circumstances have continued to conspire to bring me more fully into alignment with who I am, my family and friends, and my purpose. It's actually not a conspiracy at all. It's life unfolding naturally, as it should, in a radical dance of freedom and sacred purpose.